Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me today for ArcGIS Pro Editing Overview. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lauren Voelker, and I am a local government solution engineer in the Esri St. Louis office. I serve city and county governments throughout the Midwest as a part of your account team and as another technical resource for you when it comes to the ArcGIS platform. I've only been with the company for a couple years, and before I joined Esri's team, I worked as kind of a jack of all trades GIS coordinator for St. Louis County government and police department. I'm actually a really happy person, but I wanted to share this photo of me working at home during the pandemic with two young children literally climbing on me at any given time. I hope some of you can relate, and just please know that you are not alone. I think you could literally spend an entire day or more discussing editing strategies and workflows in ArcGIS Pro. And unfortunately, here we only have 30 minutes. So I'm going to do my best to highlight the new Pro editing features in ArcGIS Pro 2.6, and then I'm going to jump right into demos. We're going to see the editing environment, how to create new features and modify existing features, and how to edit attributes, which is actually secretly one of my favorite topics because it's incredible in Pro as compared to ArcMap. So I'm just going to have a few slides, and then rather than talk about editing in Pro, I'd like to show you editing in ArcGIS Pro. So here we go. There have been hundreds of improvements and equivalencies in the last two releases of ArcGIS Pro. Here are a couple of the highlights. At ArcGIS Pro 2.5 with annotation and labeling, you now have the ability to select a small portion of labels and convert that selection to annotation. You can also pause or lock labeling, so you're not waiting for an entire feature layer to label in the map. And this is especially useful if you have a ton of labels or annotation. ArcGIS Pro 2.5 offers secondary anchors and inline edits, which allow you to double click and edit annotation right in the map. There's also a follow feature option in which the label or annotation will actually follow the feature with which it's connected. In the realm of editing, we see extend, trim, and mirror, which are all very cool tools to help you speed up your editing workflows and maintain accuracy. Mirror allows editors to create a mirror copy of selected features. There's also direction distance and direction construction tools. And direction distance allows you to create points or vertices from a known point plus a direction from a known point using a specific bearing line. And direction allows you to create points or vertices at the intersection of two bearing lines. There's also a line intersection tool which extends existing lines to a point of intersection. It can also be used to split lines where they intersect. In the attributes pane, we now offer a layers tab allowing users to browse all of the features or records in a single layer regardless of their selection status, simply by highlighting features. In addition, attributes can be modified and geometry edits can be made using quick access to editing tools on the Geometry tab. Highlights for editing in Pro 2.6 include more annotation and labeling improvements. For example, you can now create and edit graphic elements in maps and layouts. Graphic elements, which are stored in graphic layers, can be used to annotate and highlight maps with text, shapes, lines, and pictures. And these graphic elements are now flexible and editable. So you can arrange them, align them, merge, group, and change their appearance or orientation from the ribbon or context menus to best fit the purpose of your workflows. We also offer scaling and truncation in annotation and labeling. In the editing realm, we're seeing extend and trim that's actually been separated out into two separate tools. We have some improved snapping and the ability to filter on group templates or filter or group feature templates. So this is really helpful with utility network or parcel fabric when you're editing and creating features and you really are working with a lot of feature templates. In attributes, you can select by attributes, and that's been incorporated right into the attribute table. There's also the ability to find and replace in the attribute table, which is amazing. There's also improved table properties. And this next one on the list is a big one, and I feel like it was a big point of frustration for many people when they were moving from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro: start and stop editing. So now we've added an option where you can enable or disable editing from the editing tab. And this setting can be enabled in the editing options under session. Once this setting has been enabled, the enable editing button displays on the edit ribbon. So features can't be created or modified until that enable editing button has been clicked. You can also now publish a topology to your WebGIS portal. That was a little anticlimactic, but it doesn't matter because we're done with our slides. Let's go check out some editing workflows in ArcGIS Pro. Okay, so I'd like to start by showing you the editing environment in ArcGIS Pro. We can access the editing options in a couple of different ways. From the Edit tab, you can click the Launcher and the Manage Edits group, or you can go to the Project tab and choose Options. This will bring up all of the project and application settings. In the Application Settings and Editing group, this has actually been reorganized in Pro 2.6 to group various settings. So under the general group, you have different attribute settings where you can enforce your attribute validation. There are geometry settings, which will and productivity settings, which will allow you to check and uncheck, whether or not you want to see the editing toolbar in the map. In the session group here, this is where you're actually going to be able to enable or disable that new start and stop editing feature. So if I check this on and go back to my project, we're now going to see that this edit button to enable editing, start and stop editing, is now in my edit toolbar. You'll notice that everything else on this toolbar is grayed out until I click on that editing button, which enables the rest of the editing tools. So in the editing settings, we've also got versioning settings. How do you want conflicts to be resolved? How do you want to define your conflicts? There are annotation settings like feature linked annotation and follow feature, and there are even symbology settings. So this is actually new to Pro 2.6, is the ability to change the symbology of your vertices for editing. So if you don't like red, you can change it to cyan. I also want to bring your attention to the units group in the project settings. This is where you would be able to set all of your units for the project in which you're currently working. So let's go back and take a look at the contents pane here. Here you can see that I'm working with some water data and some parcel and subdivision information. And right now I'm listing by my drawing order, but I also have the ability to list by source. And this is going to show me that my data is actually coming from different locations. I can list these by selection and even list by editing. And notice when I try to click on this, it tells me that I need to enable from my editing tab in order to view those and turn them on and off. I can control snapping here for my various layers as well. So say I didn't want to be able to snap to a building, for example, in my parcel data, I could turn that off here and back on. On my edit tab, we did already cover that this edit button will enable or disable editing, and as that is turned on, it'll actually turn on those grayed out functions, and we'll look at that a little bit closer later on. We do have a clipboard feature here, so if I wanted to go in and select a few features and copy them to my clipboard, I could do that this way and then even paste them in a different location if I wanted to do that as well. I do have control over my snapping in the edit toolbar. You'll notice that snapping is currently turned on for all the features, and I have pretty fine-grained control about what I turn on and turn off. I can also set my snapping tolerance and go into my snapping settings as well to get that fine-grained control over my snapping. Not only do I have access to snapping in the edit toolbar, I can also access it from the bottom of my map as well. And you'll see I have the same options here as I did in the above tab. We can access our modification tools in a couple of different ways. From the Edit tab, we can click on the Modify button in the Features group, and this will bring up the Modify Features pane. And this pane shows the grouping of our various tools. We can change this display to small icons or a list of tools, however we prefer to see it. And you can also see that we have a tools gallery in the Edit tab. And again, here we can see that our favorites and groups of tools are displayed just like our Modify Features pane. In the Modify Features pane, you also have a My Tools gallery, which you can customize your favorites from the Modify Features pane. And I think it's good to note that, all tools, My Tools, and the Tools gallery are all customizable. Okay, let me clear a couple of items up here and we will go take a look at some editing workflows. All right, in the first workflow, I'd like to bring your attention to this little portion of subdivision right here that appears to be in the wrong place. You can see that it is a part of a multi-part feature, and what we can actually do is we can explode this multi-part feature into individual parts so that we can attach this small misaligned portion of subdivision to its correct location. So we're going to explode those three features into individual features. And now I'll be able to go back and select this individual feature with the larger subdivision, and I can merge them together using my merge tool. And here I can choose which feature to preserve in my merge. I'm going to choose that big subdivision and click merge, and now you can see that that small misaligned portion is now a part of the greater subdivision. And you'll also notice here that this portion of the line is actually, it should be along this red dotted line here, so we can go in and we can use our reshape tool to just go ahead and realign this feature with where it's supposed to be. And we could just draw a couple. It's going to be a pretty rough sketch here, but it'll get you the idea. And you'll notice my snapping is on. I also still have my spacebar hotkey in Pro if I wanted to turn that snapping off, but here I'm just going to go ahead and align that. And here we can see that that feature has been realigned, albeit roughly, to match the edge of the subdivision boundary. Now let's go take a look at a new tool that called Mirror that was new at Pro 2.5. I'm going to turn off my subdivisions and open my Mirror tool. This tool is an equivalency tool for ArcMap, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the selection and I'm going to go ahead and select a feature here. And you'll notice that I have a couple of options. I have a 2-click option or a 1-click option. Let's take a look at the 1-click option first, and I can go ahead and place that feature on my map, and you can see that there is a preview of where the new feature would go, and I can kind of use my mouse to align that feature, and it will mirror that feature based on the selected feature. And the 2-click option here, if I wanted to do that, since I still have this one selected, I can swing it around. That's not right. Let's delete that. Let's make a selection on this one. We'll do a 2-click option, and I can click 1 click for an endpoint, and you'll see that I'll be able to swing that feature around this way, and then I can put it where I want it, but say I also wanted to move this feature, since it's not exactly where I need it to be, then I can click there and move the feature, double click to finish, and I have a mirrored feature based on the original feature that I selected. Now let's go take a look at the new extend or trim tool. This tool was added at 2.5 and updated at 2.6. It is a combined extend or trim tool. So for example, if I wanted to select this line here that doesn't quite come all the way to this edge, I can select that line, choose extend or trim, and what you'll notice is that a gray solid line actually indicates an extension of the line, or a dotted gray line will indicate a trim. So in this case, I'm going to trim this overshoot back to the alley and just double click on that feature, and you'll see that it was snapped back to the alley. Now, on the other hand, say I only wanted to extend features, I could choose that, and with the feature still selected, I could click on it and get that solid line all the way out to the street to the west, double click on the line, and it will extend that feature out to that other street. The next tool that I'd like to show you is the line intersection tool, which will allow you to create an intersection between two lines. Notice that the first line that I select turns gray. The second line will also turn gray, and this blue dot is an indication of where those lines will intersect. So if I double click on that, we'll see that that line intersection has been completed. So those are just a few of the quick examples of modification tools that you can use in Pro. And we could spend so much more time on modification tools alone, but I wanted to switch into showing you a couple of cool attribute tools that you now have available. There's going to be times when you just need to work with the attributes outside of editing your existing geometry. And there are two main areas that you can edit attributes: through the attribute pane, which you can access through the selection group on the edit tab, or through the attribute table. I'm going to go ahead and open the attribute table for my streets here. I don't have a lot of information in this data set beyond name and street type, nothing you would see like you're from and to ranges, your municipalities, etc. normally. But this is just for example. So I now have the ability to select by attributes directly in my attribute table, which is pretty wonderful. I can create an expression here. I also have the ability to find and replace certain values under my menu. So say, for example, I wanted to find all of the streets that were entitled East Franklin. I can type that in there. I have to spell it correctly first, of course, and you'll see that there were 4 results that were returned. I can show that selection and focus in on specifically those records that were there. Say all of these were now going to be West Franklin. So now I see that I have my East Franklin in here. I want to replace each of these records with West Franklin, and I can replace them one at a time or all together, and you can see that those street names were updated accordingly. Another cool way to edit and view features is through the attribute pane. Can start by making a selection here. Let's choose North Columbia this time. And I've only got 2 here, but I can go ahead and select those features, and they will appear in my my attribute pane. So here I have the option, I can update street types, say we're going North Columbia Avenue. That's going to update each of those records. That way I can also update them individually. I also now have the ability to step through the features on any of the layers in my project, so in my map. So if I didn't just want to look at streets, I could look at parcels that are on that street, but let's go ahead and do streets here, and I can play through each of the features here. This is a really good way to just take a look, especially for QA/QC purposes, and it will step through those features so you can view each of them accordingly. All right, and that is pretty much the end of my time today. Thank you very much for your time. I am on the phone and would be happy to take any questions that you may have. Again, thanks for coming to ArcGIS Pro Editing Overview. Have a great day.
Great, Lauren, thanks. That was a really great presentation. I use ArcGIS Pro in editing every day. I've got a lot of stuff that I do with Arc Pro, and seeing some of that stuff is really good. So yes, round of applause. I don't have any questions in here, just compliments saying that the improvements are amazing and a great presentation. Is there anybody that is currently joined that wants to raise their hand or type in a message in the chat box for, submit any questions? Not seeing anything. Some thank yous.
Do you have any questions, Mike?
No. It's funny. The stuff that I edit with in Arc Pro, I mean, it's a lot of digitizing. I'm updating a lot of land-based stuff in our. I work for a utility company in Frankfurt, and we've got some land-based data that is really old and out of date. And so I'm going through, and I converted everything was an Arc map, and I converted everything to Arc Pro, and I'm just really enjoying the customization of the tools. Like I've got all my tools on that main ribbon there that I need, and I just sit back and forth, and it just makes it so much quicker. There's a couple tweaks that I had that I had to get in touch with customer support with, and they're working with me on it. I think it's mainly an issue on my end and not your end, but everything is just great. I enjoy editing Arc Pro, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing all the new stuff to come, and 2.6 and later. I'm currently on 2.6. I don't know when 2.7 is coming out, if there's anything on the horizon there, if you know of anything that, or when it might be coming out, or.
I don't.
Michael Scott Steppo, you got a couple questions in the chat box.
Okay, yeah, from Derek Hunt here, I've got, let's see, can the ready-to-use tools be modified, perhaps exported and modified as a new tool?
That is an excellent question, Derek. And the answer to your question is yes, you can absolutely do that. And the easiest way to do that is to either take the tool into Model Builder or take the tool into Python and modify it there. And then you can actually save those tools as new tools in your project toolbox or in another toolbox that you keep ready to go. I still have a sandbox project that I work with all the time. So any tool modification that I do, I tend to save them in my sandbox toolbox because it can still be accessed from any project in which I'm working. So the answer is yes. The way to do that would be through Model Builder and Python. I have a session coming up on analysis and geoprocessing. I believe it is, I'm looking right now, it will be tomorrow morning at 1:45 Eastern. That's afternoon. It's kind of morning for me. But it'll be 1:45 tomorrow. And I do go over in that session how to utilize Model Builder and Python to work with your tools and save those tools. And not only that, you can now schedule those to run directly in your ArcGIS Pro project. So I hope that answers your question.
Great, thanks. Yep. We still have about 4 more minutes. And I'm not seeing any more questions. Anybody else out there that wants to chime in, feel free.
Hi, everyone. This is Scott again. The session Lauren's talking about is at 1:45 in room A, and it's ArcGIS Pro Analysis and Geoprocessing Overview. If you'd like to
Thank you.
put that on your schedule.
Great, great. Well, I do want to take a second to remind everybody about the social activity tonight. We've got at 4:30, we've got the Tuesday evening social, the campfire stories. So everybody try to join if you can. Sounds fun. Any other questions?
No, I saw a comment just come in from Laura about the find and replace tool. That is huge, isn't it? And it's a wonderful functionality to have in there, to be able, especially if you're working with a data set, like any parcel or land-based data, and you're looking for, you know, parcels with a particular characteristic or on a specific street, and you want to select all of them, and you don't have to, you know, sort your attributes anymore. You can just use the find tool, step through each of those features individually. You can do a bulk update on them if you need to. I'm a big fan of the find and replace tool. That was a big one for me.
Yep, I agree. Anybody else? Well, we can wrap it up a couple minutes early if you want. Again, Lauren, thank you for the presentation. It has been really great to take a look at some of the stuff on there, and look forward to checking out your stuff that you'll be presenting on later.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much, Mike and Scott and everybody in attendance today. Really appreciate it. Have a great afternoon.